Hey YouTubers, my first and only commenter so far on my M8, or I'm sorry, my M2 video, asked if I would do one on my M8, and indeed I will. So here it is. Like the M2 one, this is just me blabbing about these cameras. I didn't really plan this out, so sorry if it's a little random. Here we have again the M2. Next to it, the M8. I hope it's obvious the size difference here. Even though these cameras have the same lineage, the M2 is much smaller than the M8, or the M8 is much bigger than the M2. I imagine that's because of the electronics that they've had to pile into the M8 in order to make it a digital camera. That I think it has a lot to do with the way these cameras handle the size difference. I think the M2 is vastly superior in the hand feel and the shootability of these cameras, just walking around with them. I hate to say that. I mean, you know, to me digital is a more familiar, or not familiar, it's a simpler way to work, quicker way to work. You get your results more quickly. There are fewer limitations. So, you know, I want to love the way the M8 handles, but honestly, the way this guy handles, there's really no comparison. The mechanical feel of the M2, you just can't beat it. I mean, you could probably beat it with an M3, but you're not going to beat it with any modern M digital or any other digital camera. So let me get the M2 out of the way here and start concentrating on the M8. One thing that contributes, in my opinion, to the M8's, I would say, relatively poor handling in terms of a naked camera with no case or grip or anything is it's got this pretty slick covering on it. It gives you nowhere near the purchase that the covering on the M2 does. The M2 has a lot more texture. I don't know if this is the original covering. I'm assuming it is, but it's grippy and textury and very nice. On the M8, it's this plasticky, very fine texture. It really didn't make any sense to me. I mean, Leica people are smart enough that I would assume that they would have tried that out and figured out that it didn't work very well. You can address that by recovering your camera at some expense. I haven't gone that far. Basically what I do is I put a half case on the camera. I tried a grip. The grip was a little too bulky for my taste. This is a Leica case. It came with the camera. I bought this camera on eBay. And I tried the grip, which also came with the camera, and I really prefer the case. It kind of gives it a nice soft touch, and certainly improves your purchase because you can get your fingers in here and hold it one-handed in a pretty secure manner. So a lot of people don't like the fiddliness of a case, and I totally understand that. But if you want to be able to carry the camera easily, I highly recommend something like that, or recovering your camera. So I didn't pull the base plate off on the M2 in my other video because it had film in it, and you don't want to do that when you've got film in your camera. But on a digital camera, obviously, there's no problem. So I'll just pull this one off. What's cool about an M8 and what's stupid about an M8 is it has the very same loading approach as a film camera, or a film M anyway, or a film Leica. You take the base plate off to put your memory card in and to change batteries, or to put a battery in it. So it's cool because it's very traditional. It's old school Leica. It's kind of silly because, well, come on. I mean, you're not loading film, so you don't really need to pull the bottom off. They could have easily put doors on the bottom. I think that Leica probably feels like A, it's more traditional, and B, it maintains the structural integrity of the camera. There's something to that because Leica thinks a lot about structural integrity. I mentioned in the M2 video that, you know, the M2 being a film camera, it still doesn't have a swing open door on the back. It loads from the bottom. Part of the reason for that is so that they could make the camera body, it's not literally one piece, but it's effectively one piece. And that gives it a whole lot of rigidity. I mean, I saw another video from a sales rep for Leica where he actually stood on top of one of these. It was actually an M9, which is a $7,000 camera. So you wouldn't do that lightly. He put all of his body weight, he put it on the ground, put all his body weight on the camera. Pretty amazing. So anyway, you know, that's part of their deal. This is what you're going to get. If you get an M8, you're going to have to do stuff through the bottom of the camera. And that's fiddly, especially if you've added a grip. Now you got to pull the grip off, flip the camera over, open the bottom, do your stuff, put the grip, you know, put the case back on. Moving on, that's enough complaining. This camera has an amazing sensor. It's not a huge number of megapixels. I think it's a 10.1, but it doesn't have an anti-alias filter, which allows a lot more detail through. It has very little filtering at all, as a matter of fact. It doesn't have much of an IR filter either. That's why when you want to shoot color, it's a good idea to put an IR filter on the lens, and that will get rid of any sort of magenta coloring that might occur on black fabrics. Not all my lenses have this. I don't really bother with it that much. You know, I'm not a fashion photographer, I'm not a professional photographer, so if a little bit of magenta shows up here and there, I think I can live with it. This lens happens to have a filter mounted.